Hey everybody, it is Mr. George, and today I want to do a brief video on the Crusades. So the Crusades falls under our unit on the Middle Ages, post-classical civilization. So we're talking, starting around 1095, we're talking about 200 years where we have Christians and Muslims fighting. So today we're going to talk about kind of how it started. We'll look at some of the causes, and then we'll look at some of the effects of the Crusades. So first, let's just take a quick look at a map here, just so we have some context. So we've got Constantinople here, which is where we have the Byzantine Emperor, okay, Eastern Emperor over here. We've got Rome over here. We've got the Holy Roman Empire, as well as we have all of the European kings, European monarchs. And down here we have Jerusalem, and you can see that we've really got Christian Europe at this time, with the exception of the Almoravids over here in Spain. And you can see that we've got this Islamic empire, all the way from the Middle East, coming all the way over to Spain. Okay, so the Crusades kind of like really brings both these worlds together. So the whole reason why we have the Crusades is that we have this call from the Byzantine Emperor Alexius to the Pope Urban II, in which he is asking for help from the European kingdoms, from the European monarchs. And this call for action from Pope Urban really is to reclaim the Holy Land, which is Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is a contentious geographical place because of its significance to not just Jews and not just Christians, but also to Muslims. So at this point, Muslims have had control of Jerusalem for about 400 years. Prior to that, it resided within the Roman Empire. So the Christians are now looking at, okay, now it's time for us to kind of like reclaim what is rightfully ours, even though we haven't had possession of it for 400 years. So this kind of like unleashes the fighting between the Christians and the Muslims for possession of the Holy Land, specifically the area of Jerusalem. So I hope that provides enough background information. So at this point, what I want to do is by looking at the Crusades, looking at some of the motivations that different individuals or groups had, as well as the effects and the impacts that the Crusades had. So before we look at the motivations, I mean, the reality is the Crusades really demonstrates not only the power of the church, which it does, but the power that the Pope has within the church, as well as the faith that Christians had at that time. So, by the time we get to the end of it, we see like the weakening of the church, as well as the dwindling of the Crusade spirit. But really, when we get to 1095, we're really looking at clear demonstration within this age of faith, the demonstration of like power and authority that the church has over people in Europe at this time. So as far as the motivation, so the Eastern Emperor is clearly encouraging this because he realizes that the Muslims are coming in the direction of Constantinople. So he's got some selfish interests here. As far as Pope Urban, well, he's looking at this, when we talk about crusade, that really is a holy war. He's really looking at this as an opportunity to reunite the church. In 1054, okay, which is less than 50 years, the church split between East and West. So this really kind of looks as an opportunity for Urban to reunite Christendom, the East and West, which really would increase the power of the church. So as far as like, getting the band back together. So that's from Urban's point of view. As far as the kings are looking at this as an opportunity to kind of like, flex their muscles, increase their power, their wealth, as well as the nobles. Again, in Europe, we're looking at this feudal society, this age of feudalism where we have all these different kingdoms, which is going to be part of the problem, which will definitely fall into the challenges, because we really don't have like one Christian leader in battle. We have all these different like fragmented groups with different militaries coming down, whether they even make it to Jerusalem or not. And then we have all these commoners. So this really becomes like an opportunity for, say you were not the oldest son and you weren't going to inherit the land, then this becomes an opportunity for you. So when we talk about the Crusades, for some, clearly it was reclaiming Jerusalem. For others, it was really a sense of adventure. For others, for common people, maybe it was an opportunity to kind of improve your lot in life. Regarding the challenges, again, there was no central leader. We also had people that had really never ventured very far from their home. They were very unfamiliar with the geography, the topography. They really had no idea what they were getting themselves into at this time. So this kind of like lays out, I guess, regarding the reasons for these crusades. Now, as far as the effects of the Crusades, it really kind of like jump-started this commercial revolution in Europe. It's getting people off their feudal manners, moving around Europe. It ends up creating new markets for people to sell things. European merchants are now able to expand trade between Europe and Southwest Asia. We really start to see the growth of towns. Okay, cities starting to like come alive. We're seeing the beginnings of like universities. We see optimism. We see education increasing. We definitely have these tensions between these two groups, but in addition to that, we do see the sharing of ideas, especially in the fields of, say, art and architecture. One of the effects of the Crusades, because obviously the Crusades was a failure, if you're looking at Jerusalem was not reclaimed. Again, this went on for 150, 200 years. Jerusalem was not reclaimed. It actually, stayed within Muslim control. It really reduced the power of the Pope. Okay, as far as people really kind of like lost interest in this as it continues through generations. In 1453, it ultimately leads to the fall of the Byzantine Empire through the Ottoman Turks. One of the effects of the Crusades was not only just the increase in trade, but because of the trade, will ultimately lead to the plague via China and the Mongols taking control of the Silk Roads. One significant impact of the Crusades, in addition to the reduction of power in the church, because there are other things going on in the church as well, the Great Schism that takes place in 1378. We do see the rise of the European monarchs. The kings really end up rising in power, and as a result of that, we're starting to see people fighting on behalf of their kings and not their feudal lords. And this specifically takes place within France and England. And it really kind of lays the foundation for the Renaissance, even though the plague is going to interrupt in the early 1300s. This really is going to lay the foundation for the Renaissance. So I hope you found this video helpful as far as what were the Crusades, who were involved, what were the different causes of the Crusades, as well as what was the lasting impacts, whether it was short-term or long-term. And thanks for watching.